The Nevada desert stretched endlessly under a merciless August sun, heat waves distorting the horizon where Fort Irwin's armored training grounds met the sky. Master Sergeant Derek Hollis stood alone at the firing range, his weathered hands gripping a measuring tape as he knelt beside a battered M1 Abrams tank. At 42, Derek had spent 23 years in the Army, the last 12 as the head gunnery instructor at the National Training Center. His face, carved by desert winds and decades of squinting through targeting scopes, told the story of a man who lived and breathed tank warfare. But today, that face was tight with frustration. The previous week's exercise had been a disaster. 6 crews, all supposedly trained to standard, had missed 70% of their long-range targets. Vehicles that should have been smoking hulks at 2,800 yards remained untouched, while millions in ammunition disappeared into sand dunes. Colonel Brentwood had been livid, his voice echoing across the command center about wasted resources and declining standards. Derek had stood silent, jaw clenched, knowing the problem wasn't the crews or the equipment. It was the aiming system itself. The traditional crosshair reticle, unchanged for decades, required complex calculations at extreme distances. Wind drift, temperature, barrel wear, target movement, every variable demanded split-second mental math while staring through a scope in a 120-degree turret. Young gunners, even talented ones, were overwhelmed. Derek had watched too many capable soldiers freeze up, their shots sailing wide as they second-guessed their calculations. 3 months ago, during a sleepless night in his small base apartment, Derek had sketched something different. Not a crosshair, but a horseshoe, an open semicircle with precise mathematical gradations along its curve. The design was radical. Instead of calculating holdover manually, the gunner would simply position the target within the horseshoe's arc, using the curve itself as a dynamic range estimator. The weapon's ballistic computer would handle the rest, but the horseshoe gave the human eye something intuitive to work with, something that matched how the brain naturally tracked moving objects. He'd spent his off-duty hours refining it, testing it secretly on the simulator, adjusting the curves based on the M256 gun's actual ballistics. The results had been extraordinary. His practice runs showed 92% accuracy at ranges beyond 3,000 yards, nearly double the current standard. 2 weeks ago, Derek had presented it to Colonel Brentwood. The meeting had lasted 11 minutes. Brentwood, a West Point graduate who wore his credentials like armor, had barely glanced at the diagrams. Innovation from a non-commissioned officer? Tampering with established Army doctrine? The colonel's response had been swift and crushing. The horseshoe aim point was deemed non-standard, potentially confusing, and, worst of all, not approved through proper channels. Derek was ordered to destroy all documentation and never speak of it again. Any further pursuit would result in disciplinary action, possibly ending his career just 3 years shy of full retirement. The other instructors had offered sympathy in quiet voices, but no one would risk supporting him. Captain Morrison, who'd seen Derek's simulator results, had pulled him aside in the mess hall. "Your numbers don't matter, Derek. The Army doesn't reward sergeants who try to reinvent the wheel. Let it go." But Derek couldn't let it go. Every failed exercise, every missed shot, every young soldier's confidence shattered by an inadequate system. It gnawed at him. He joined the Army to protect people, to make a difference. How could he walk away from something that could save lives in real combat? So he'd kept one copy. Hidden in his footlocker, beneath dress uniforms he rarely wore, the horseshoe specifications remained. He told himself it was just insurance, a backup in case someone eventually listened. Deep down, he knew it was defiance. Now, standing in the scorching heat with another training cycle approaching, Derek faced an impossible choice. In 6 days, the annual Joint Task Force exercise would begin, the biggest training event of the year, with observers from the Pentagon, foreign military attaches, and even a CNN crew documenting modern armored warfare. 40 tanks, 20 Bradley fighting vehicles, and support units would engage in realistic combat scenarios across 70 square miles of desert. And Derek knew, with absolute certainty, that the current targeting system would fail spectacularly under that pressure. He looked toward the command building where Brentwood's office windows reflected the dying sun. His phone buzzed, a message from his daughter Emily, a junior at UCLA, asking about Thanksgiving plans. Normal life, family concerns, the peaceful retirement he'd been promised if he just kept his head down. Derek's hand moved unconsciously to his chest pocket, where he'd folded the horseshoe diagram that morning. Some choices, he realized, weren't really choices at all. The briefing room fell silent as Colonel Brentwood unveiled the Joint Task Force exercise parameters. Derek sat in the back row, surrounded by 24 instructors and senior NCOs, watching the digital display illuminate rows of simulated enemy positions. The scenario was ambitious. A rapid armored assault against fortified positions at extended ranges, mimicking the kind of warfare the Army might face against peer adversaries. Maximum engagement distances, 3,200 yards. In desert conditions, with crosswinds averaging 15 knots. Derek felt his stomach tighten. These were precisely the conditions where the current system struggled most. He glanced around the room, seeing confident nods from officers who hadn't spent the last decade actually behind the gun, actually watching young soldiers crack under pressure. After the briefing, Derek approached Brentwood near the coffee station. The colonel's jaw tightened at his approach. "Sir, about the long-range engagements. We've been through this, Sergeant Hollis. The conversation is over. Colonel, with respect, those distances in those conditions, our hit probability drops below 40%. I've got data." Brentwood's voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Do you understand what insubordination looks like? I gave you a direct order. The targeting system has been Army standard for 20 years. It's been used in actual combat. Your little art project doesn't change decades of doctrine. Could save lives in real combat, sir. Or it could confuse soldiers in the field and get them killed." Brentwood's eyes hardened. "You're dismissed, Master Sergeant. And if I hear one more word about this horseshoe nonsense, you'll finish your career filing paperwork at Fort Polk." Derek walked out, blood pounding in his ears. Fort Polk, the assignment officers used as punishment, a miserable swamp base in Louisiana where careers went to die. That evening, word spread. In the NCO club, voices lowered when Derek entered. Staff Sergeant Chun, who'd served with him for 6 years, bought him a beer but avoided eye contact. "Man, you gotta let this go. Brentwood's got friends at Tradick headquarters. He can bury you." At home, Derek's wife Sarah found him at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning. The horseshoe diagram spread before him alongside performance data. "Derek, honey, come to bed." He looked up, eyes red. "Sarah, I watched Private Martinez freeze up last week. 19 years old. Sharp kid. Knows the math perfectly. But out there, when it matters, the system fails him. How do I walk away from that?" She sat beside him, taking his weathered hand. "You've given 23 years. Emily starts grad school next year. We're so close to the finish line. What if there's a real war? What if those kids go into combat with a system I knew was broken, and I said nothing?" Sarah's voice cracked. "What if you throw away everything we've worked for, and nobody even listens?" Derek had no answer. Outside, the desert wind howled against the windows, carrying sand against glass like static, like the hiss of opportunities slipping away into darkness. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sergeant First Class Maria Ortiz found Derek in the simulator bay 3 days before the exercise. A veteran gunner with 2 deployments to Syria, Maria had a reputation for brutal honesty and exceptional skill. She closed the door behind her. "I heard what happened with Brentwood." She crossed her arms. "And I heard why." Derek tensed, expecting another lecture about chain of command. "Show me." "What?" "Your horseshoe thing. Show me how it works." For the next hour, Derek walked her through the system on the simulator. The intuitive arc placement, the natural eye tracking, how the curve eliminated mental calculation delays. Maria said nothing, just nodded, her eyes sharp with focus. "Let me run it." Derek programmed a scenario. 9 targets at varying distances between 2,800 and 3,200 yards. Random wind conditions. 30 seconds to engage all targets. Maria settled into the gunner's seat. Through the monitor, Derek watched her work. The horseshoe reticle overlaid the desert landscape. She moved fluidly, positioning targets within the arc with instinctive precision. The turret traversed smoothly, The gun spoke 9 times in 23 seconds. 9 hits. Perfect score. Maria emerged from the simulator, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, something Derek had rarely seen. That's not just good, Sergeant. That's revolutionary. Why the hell did Brentwood kill this? Because I'm just a sergeant who didn't follow proper channels. Maria's jaw tightened. I've got 3 gunners in my platoon who'd score 90% with this system instead of 40. She leaned against the simulator. What are you going to do? Nothing. I've got 3 years until retirement. Can't risk. You know what I risked in Raqqa? Everything. Every single day. She stepped closer. Those Pentagon observers coming to the exercise? General Patricia Keene is one of them. She's armor branch. She actually listens to people who know what they're talking about. Derek's heart raced. You're suggesting I go over Brentwood's head? That's career suicide. It's only suicide if you fail. Maria pulled out her phone. I've got 4 other senior gunners who'll back this. We run it during the exercise, show them what it can do. That's impossible. The systems are locked down, and Brentwood would have me court-martialed. Maria's eyes gleamed with the kind of determination Derek remembered from combat veterans. Not if we do it off the books. Simulator demonstration, parallel to the official exercise. We show Keene the numbers, the performance difference. Let the results speak. If you're watching this and wondering what happens next, hit that subscribe button. Because Derek's about to make a choice that could change everything, or destroy him completely. Derek looked at the horseshoe diagram still displayed on the monitor. 23 years of following orders, playing it safe. And where had it gotten him? Watching good soldiers fail with bad tools. He took a breath. Tell me your plan. The next 72 hours became a covert operation within their own base. Maria assembled her team with surgical precision. Staff Sergeants Chun, Rodriguez, and Jackson. All combat veterans, all frustrated with the current system's failures. They worked in shadows, using off-duty hours and simulator time officially logged as maintenance. Derek reprogrammed the training software during night shifts, his security clearance giving him access other instructors lacked. The risk was enormous. If Brentwood discovered them, it wouldn't just end Derek's career. It would take down everyone involved. But something had shifted in Derek. Years of suppressed frustration had crystallized into purpose. He wasn't just fighting for a targeting system anymore. He was fighting for every young soldier who'd ever doubted themselves because their tools failed them. The Joint Task Force exercise began on a Tuesday morning with parade ground formality. 40 tanks rolled out in formation, their crews eager, the desert air electric with anticipation. CNN cameras captured sweeping shots of American military might. Pentagon observers settled into the command center's viewing gallery, including General Patricia Keene, a woman whose silver hair and 3 stars represented 30 years of armored warfare expertise. Colonel Brentwood stood tall, his presentation polished, promising a demonstration of superior training and doctrine. The official exercise began poorly. By mid-morning, the scoreboard told a brutal story. Long-range engagements were failing at catastrophic rates. Target vehicles at 3,000 yards remained operational while millions in simulated ammunition disappeared into sand. Crews were rattled, their confidence evaporating with each miss. In the observation deck, Pentagon officials exchanged concerned glances. Derek watched from a maintenance bay window, his chest tight with vindication and anger. He'd predicted this exact outcome. Maria appeared beside him. It's time. General Keene just asked for a bathroom break. She'll pass the simulator bay in 3 minutes. They moved quickly. The backup simulator hummed to life, the horseshoe reticle glowing on screens. Chun, Rodriguez, and Jackson took positions. Derek had programmed the hardest scenario he could design. 9 enemy vehicles at distances between 2,850 and 3,100 yards. Variable wind conditions, moving targets, sandstorm interference. Conditions that would break even veteran crews using standard systems. General Keene appeared in the doorway, accompanied by a young captain. Her eyes, sharp and analytical, swept the bay. General Keene, ma'am. Derek's voice was steady despite his racing pulse. Master Sergeant Derek Hollis. I apologize for the unorthodox approach, but I need 4 minutes of your time." The captain moved to intercede, but Keen raised a hand. She'd noticed the simulator displays, the unusual reticle pattern. "What am I looking at, Sergeant?" "A solution." Derek gestured to Maria. "If you'll allow us to demonstrate." Keen checked her watch, calculating the risk of indulging unauthorized personnel. Then she stepped inside. "For minutes. Impress me." Maria dropped into the gunner's seat like she was born there. Derek initiated the scenario without preamble. 9 targets, maximum difficulty. Conditions designed to showcase every advantage the Horseshoe system offered. The turret came alive. General Keen stepped closer to the monitors, her trained eye tracking every movement. Maria worked with fluid precision, the Horseshoe reticle guiding her aim with intuitive accuracy. Target acquisition, 2 seconds. Adjustment for wind and distance. Instantaneous, the curve doing the work her brain would normally struggle with. The gun fired. First target, hit, 2,850 yards. Second target, hit, 3,020 yards, moving left. Third target, hit, 2,940 yards, partial concealment. The bay filled with the simulator sounds, hydraulics, ammunition feed, the distinctive crack of the main gun. Chun took the next run, then Rodriguez, then Jackson. Different gunners, different styles, same devastating results. 9 targets, 9 hits, every single run. Keen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes told a different story. She'd spent 3 decades in armor. She knew what she was watching. When the final simulation ended, silence hung in the bay. Through the window, the official exercise continued its dismal performance. Another miss at long range, another frustrated crew. "Explain the mathematics, Sergeant Hollis." Derek did, his voice gaining confidence as he walked through ballistic curves, visual processing efficiency, the reduction in cognitive load during high-stress engagements. Keen asked sharp questions, drilling into variables, testing his understanding. She wasn't impressed by gimmicks. She wanted proof the system could save lives in real combat. 20 minutes stretched into 40. The captain shifted nervously, aware they were missing official proceedings. Keen ignored him. Finally, she turned to Derek. "Why isn't this system already implemented?" Derek hesitated. Maria answered for him. "Colonel Brentwood rejected it without proper evaluation. Sergeant Hollis was ordered to destroy all documentation and threatened with disciplinary action for pursuing it further." Keen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I see." She looked at the simulator results still glowing on screens, percentages that spoke louder than any argument. "And yet here you are, risking your career 3 years from retirement." "Ma'am, I couldn't watch another exercise fail knowing there was a better way." Derek met her eyes. "These soldiers deserve tools that work." Keen pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. The captain's eyes widened. Whatever message she was sending, it carried weight. "Sergeant Hollis, consider your documentation no longer destroyed." She pocketed the phone. "I'm ordering an immediate technical evaluation by Army Research Lab and a formal review at Traddock. This system will be tested properly." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Colonel Brentwood and I will be having a conversation about the proper evaluation of innovations from experienced NCOs." Her tone could have frozen the desert. The Army doesn't advance by silencing the people who actually do the work. As Keen left, Derek's legs nearly gave out. Maria grabbed his shoulder, grinning fiercely. "You just changed the game." 18 months later, Derek stood in a very different desert. The Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona stretched before him, but this time he wasn't an instructor fighting for recognition. He was the lead technical consultant for the Horseshoe Adaptive Targeting System, now officially designated the HATS Mark II and undergoing final field trials before Army-wide implementation. The morning sun caught the newly painted sign outside the testing facility, Hollis Advanced Gunnery Research Center. They'd named it after him. After Keen's intervention, everything had moved with startling speed. The Army Research Lab validation took 6 weeks and confirmed what Derek had known. The Horseshoe system improved long-range accuracy by 87% while reducing gunner stress and training time. Traddock fast-tracked approval. Defense contractors competed for production rights. Colonel Brentwood had been quietly reassigned to a logistics position in Maryland. No formal reprimand, the army protected its own, but his career trajectory had effectively ended. Derek felt no satisfaction in that. He'd never wanted revenge, just recognition of the truth. The previous week's demonstration had been the culmination of everything. 40 M1 Abrams tanks equipped with HATS Mark II had engaged simulated enemy positions at ranges between 2,800 and 3,400 yards under adverse conditions. The results had been unprecedented. 94% accuracy, faster engagement times, and gunners reporting significantly higher confidence levels. 9 vehicles destroyed at 3,100 yards in a single exercise, the exact scenario that had seemed impossible 18 months ago. Maria had been there, now a master sergeant herself and the primary training officer for HATS implementation. Chun, Rodriguez, and Jackson had all received commendations. The team that risked everything had been vindicated completely. Derek's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Emily says congratulations on the CBS interview. We're so proud of you. His daughter had graduated, his marriage was stronger than ever, and his retirement, now just 6 months away, would come with the knowledge that he'd genuinely changed something important. General Keane had visited last month, watching the trials with satisfaction. You know what impressed me most, Sergeant? Not the system itself, though it's brilliant. It was that you cared more about getting it right than protecting yourself. The Army needs more people like you. Now, standing in the Arizona sun watching crews train on equipment that would save lives in future conflicts, Derek thought about all the moments that had led here. The sleepless nights, the threat of losing everything, the choice to stand up when staying silent would have been easier. He thought about every young soldier who would benefit from this system, who would face combat with better tools and better chances. That made it all worth it.